Sure. Would you like to?
I'm sure you guys have questions about gin and tonic.
I have one. Do we have to begin?
If you have a passion, should you directly jump onto it after completing your MBA or something, or you should just keep working or something for some more years to get the depth of the subject or your passion?
Good question. I do not have my MBA, and one of the things that I didn't mention earlier was that my dad and mom were after 3 or 4 years in the work world after college, were vociferous that I should go and do my MBA at all costs. So I applied to Harvard and a few other schools. They all said, "You're the greatest candidate in the world we ever met, but we don't want you." I remember those letters. They expect a paragraph telling me how great I was, and then they expect one line saying thanks, but no thanks. So it's very easy for me. It's a choice between going to these places I didn't get into, drinking gin and tonic and all that. So it's very choice. What I would say is, I think that's a very subjective question. I felt comfortable enough going into my entrepreneurial venture. One, because I felt as a mergers banker, I'd seen or understood enough about what makes companies work and what doesn't, that I could make that happen myself. And I had a partner who had some very, very industry-specific experience. So I would say in many ways people tell me, "Oh, you're getting your real-life MBA right now." So I chose to do that because nothing really teaches you, from what I understand, like the real world. So I chose to do it, but I will tell you, a lot of times when I speak to undergraduates, I tell them that they should not. I oppose them going into become an entrepreneur day one after they graduate. I don't believe they possess the skill set, the maturity level, the understanding of communication dynamics between people to be successful as entrepreneurs at age 22 right after college. I do suggest they work for 3 or 4 years, get an understanding of what they want to do. And for Bulldog, I would say it took me about 6 months, 7, 8 months of just thinking, every weekend, thinking and drinking, I should say, really to see if this is something that could work. And then I decided to do it. So, sorry for the long answer, but I would say make sure the opportunity is right. If you feel you're ready and you have somebody with some industry experience, I was really lucky. I don't think we'd be here today if that person with industry experience hadn't joined the company and helped us develop. So I found somebody like that. And that in turn, by the way, not only did it help the company come to life, but anytime you sat down at an investor meeting, I was very sensitive to this. At that time I was 26 or 27. If I went to an investor meeting in shorts and a t-shirt drinking a gin and tonic, any investor would look at me and say, "This guy's not serious." But I made it a point, because I know that investor meetings, the first 30 seconds can make or break it. I would wear a suit and I would have this person next to me. He would talk very eloquently about the dynamics of the liquor business, what makes things successful from his experience. So that really helped me in more ways than one. So. What else?
I have a question for you. When they'll get the revenue from you after those 2 years of the product, how did you feel about it? Because if you entered into a loss, what would be? I mean, would you be able to pay it or ask to beg your father to finance you to pay it? I don't know.
If my dad was the CEO of ArcelorMittal, he would have financed the whole thing. But given that he's a hardworking diplomat for the good old government of India, I knew that was not. I didn't know all my options, but I knew that was not an option. So I was concerned about that. I knew it was a risk, and the people who did the agreement with us knew it was a risk. But again, they were getting their money as a percentage of revenue, so all our expenses below that didn't really matter. They took a percentage of the top line. But it was a risk. They realized it was a risk. I would say that it was an enormously favorable deal for us, because I didn't have to spend $500,000 on it that I didn't have on day one. And because, they took a piece of deferred fees in the first 2 years when our sales were $200,000 a year. It's not a meaningful sort of hit to the company's books. But now, every pitch they ever do for the advertising services, Bulldog is the first case study they have. And they've won 4 or 5 more accounts in the liquor business as a result of what I believe is their work with Bulldog. So it has worked out for them. And in addition to getting all their money from us, they've lent a couple of other very high-paying clients. So.
Did we go for the venture capital?
Initially, yes, because I felt, okay, I'm a banker, I can go talk to these VC guys, I can talk the talk. But I realized all the venture capitalists, certainly in America, their main focus is the technology industry. They didn't understand anything about the liquor business, consumer brands. They don't have the patience for what it takes. And, the business is very different than building sort of the next Facebook or Google. So I went there initially, but very quickly realized there was no market in the VC industry for that. So we just went to high net worth. Basically, every friend I've ever had invested in Bulldog. So there's got to be successful, or else I'm not going to have too many friends. So I decided that that's the first way to go is all the people who know you best can put in little chunks of money. So because those tend to add up after a while.
Sir, how did you go about your promoting your product in the market?
That's the fun part of the job, let me tell you. Well, when we first started, we said we're going to pick 10 of the hottest bars in New York where we want them to carry our product on the drink list. We want this to be our spot. And we'd have parties there sort of every weekend, and we'd hire promo agencies to go out and do it. That was very first, we wanted to create a bit of a buzz in those markets. Then, we started now in New York. Next time you guys are there on the subways, we advertise on the subway platforms. We advertise in print magazines. We're very active on Facebook, and I expect all of you guys to join our Facebook page, by the way, facebook.com/Bulldog Gin. I think you guys will really enjoy it. So we're very active in sort of old media and new media. And I would say that's kind of the way to do it. I realize in the liquor business, to get a consumer hook, you have to hit that 3 times at least. You have to try it and like it 3 times before they'll consider ordering it at a bar. So we get them at subways, when they're commuting to work, when they open up New York Magazine or Time Out New York, I want them to see it. And then the best way to do it is a recommendation from a bartender. The holy grail of marketing is a trust referral, as they say. So that's what Mark Zuckerberg from Facebook says. So we want to make sure every bartender who pours Bulldog knows something about it and says something nice. If the customer says, "What is Bulldog?" or "Why should I drink this instead of XYZ brand?" We want to make sure he says something favorable about Bulldog versus the other person. Because everybody knows when you advertise something in a publication, they know you paid for it and that your agenda is to get them to buy it. But they think a bartender is generally neutral.
Sir, as you said, the party of this gin was given by your friend.
Yes.
So, was he there with you when you actually started working on this idea?
This is a very interesting question related to yours. My friend is 8 years older than me. And at that point in time, he was fairly senior to me as a banker. Quite well advanced in his banking career. He had just bought his second apartment, and his second kid was on the way. So he had 2 mortgages, 2 kids, a very high-paying job in banking. So the opportunity cost for him was very, very high compared to me. So he said, "I don't have the risk tolerance to take something like this." I said, for me, I didn't have a mortgage, no wife, no kids. I said, it is an easier decision for me to do it than it would be for somebody else. So he was not involved, and we're still friends and stuff, and he's just like, "Yeah, I should have been involved," is what he says, but he chose not to, and I decided to have the cojones to do it, so.
How easy or difficult was it to convince a first customer? I mean, except your dad.
Well, I will tell you, my dad, every once in a while we would have gin and tonics, but 90% of the time, like a good Indian, my dad was drinking Johnny Black. And I would say 95% of the time. I realized that this was a successful product when I've got my dad 50% of the time drinking Bulldog. And that's a major change for my dad. So the first customer was tough. I mean, I remember I said, "I got this beautiful bottle," and I remember that day, this beautiful bottle, I created this nice POS materials that went along with it, and I had a little t-shirt. So I walked into this bar, and that was also the time where I was also the head of sales, because I was the only salesperson. And so I remember walking into this bar at like 3 o'clock, and I said, I'm going to go in there. There's 2 people sitting at the bar. I said, "We're going to make this fun. I'll pour gin and tonics for everybody. It'll be great." I go in there, and I said to the bar manager, "I have a new gin. I'd like you to try it." And then he was just like, "Nobody drinks gin. Nobody's heard of Bulldog. Thank you." I said, "Okay, yeah, but don't you want me to tell you?" He says, "No, thanks." I said, "You sure? Can I leave this?" I said, "Can I leave this bottle here for you so you can try it?" He says, "Thanks. If I took every bottle somebody came in to give me, I'd have 365 bottles a year that I don't use." And I said, "Well, it's nice talking." I said, "Okay, this guy's a real prick. Probably not going to happen again." So I went to 10 places. He was the nicest of the 10. And I said, "Man, this is where?" And in my mind, I'm just thinking, I'm like, look, I was in banking till 2 o'clock in the morning. I'd be working. What I want to do is sort of bottle service with Puff Daddy and Paris Hilton. Why is that not happening yet? this. I ran out of stock of Bombay Sapphire. We used it in one of our cocktails. Let me see if Bulldog works. So he used Bulldog. He said, I like this. You know what? I'm going to order 3 bottles. And I came back next week and he said, you know what? My customers really like that. I ordered a case. So now I went to everybody and I said, you know what? Such and such bar. I exaggerated a little bit. I said, he took Bombay Sapphire in his hand and he said, he dropped it, he threw it on the ground, he threw it away. He said, Bulldog is so much better. Then he took all his other bottles and he burned them. And he said, I'm going to carry only Bulldog. Now, I had to exaggerate a little bit, but that's what I started doing. And they're like, oh my God, that bar did it. I was like, yeah. So then he took it, and I had 2 bars of it, and I said, okay, I'm getting the hang of this. So then I found him going to be like, you know, I kind of exaggerated a little too much, some of the exaggerations that I probably won't get into, but that's how it started, a whole bunch of no's. And then it hit me one day when I was like, man, the last 3 days or last 2 weeks, every person I've talked to buy this has been a man. I mean, what's going on here? You know, well, I thought that, I thought I'd be sitting in Paris Hilton, that whole thing, that whole dream sort of taking it well and materialized. And I was like, everybody I've talked to is a man. I was like, I wonder if my salesperson is a female, if she may have better luck. I said, you know, let's see. So I hired a female salesperson who's very assertive, very eloquent, very articulate, extremely intelligent. I said, let's see what happens. So, you know, her first day, she outsold me 10 to 1. I said, all right, I found the solution. So I was like, okay, I went about this totally. Here I am wearing a suit, going in there, trying to get the presentation, like, you know, on top of the board of directors of IBM. And all you need is a pretty woman in the tractor to say, buy this gin, will you? And the guy's like, all right, I'll take 2 cases. But what really pissed me off is I sent her in, and I was like, no way, I said, this is your lucky day. So I sent her back. Remember that first guy I went to who says, nobody drinks gin, nobody's heard of Bulldog? I said, let me see if this is real. And I'm going to send her in there. Hopefully he's going to shoot her down and she's going to acknowledge. She comes out and he said, he just ordered 60 bottles. He just went in there 2 seconds ago. She said, yeah. So I went back in there and then she was like, no, don't. I was like, you know what? I'm not going to mess this up. He's ordered 60 bottles, whatever it takes. And I said, okay, maybe I'm better sitting in the office letting her handle the sales. In the male-dominated industry, she really, she helps break the ice a lot.
So what's keeping Bulldog out of India for another 2 years? Is it like we don't have the right kind of consumer?
No, the consumers here are fantastic. Everything I would say is the conditions that I would say are not right here are that it takes a lot of money to succeed in this market because, you know, to build a brand we have to go to the right bars. And all the bars here, for example, all the hotels in New Delhi, for example, I was there a month ago saying, you know, if I gave you my gin to push it, what would it cost? The guy said, yeah, you have to pay a listing fee. I said, oh, well, you know, he said, it'll be 10,000. I said, 10,000 rupees? I said, I'll give you my credit card now. He said, no, $10,000. I said, are you going to buy 10,000 bottles? Like, what's the trade-off? He said, no. He says, we'll buy 1 case, but the listing fee is 10,000. I said, but what are you going to do for me if I give you $10,000? He said, you see that shelf? And I looked at a shelf with 75 bottles. He said, I'll put it on there for you. I said, thanks a lot, buddy, and that's a big favor. But I said, well, what's the deal with the 10,000? He said, well, my party was in here last week, they offered me 5,000, and the guys are came and offered me 8. So I'm going up by 2,000 or 3,000 the next guy who comes and sees me. So to get in the door, it's a tremendous hurdle to get in the door at the right places. It'd be very cash intensive. Second, at our price point, given the tax structure in India, we'd be at a very, very high price point. We only really need sort of duty-free markets and stuff. And third, I'd have to find the right distribution partner who's willing to sort of focus on us where we are an important focus. The problem is, again, with 2 or 3 big companies like Kingfisher and stuff, pushing out millions of cases, their salespeople, we would be having a negligible impact on their bottom line. So I would rather not be somewhere where I'm viewed as, you know, a problem or not really an important part of the thing. But we do, at the time where we do come here, it's my dream to sort of, you know, bring Bulldog back here. And the Indian community in the U.S. has been hugely supportive. Anytime we do a company rare, they're like, they come up here on the street, they're like, oh, I stopped drinking that gin in a blue bottle because, you know, you do this and you do Bulldog. So if I can get 1 billion Indians drinking Bulldog, it'll be nice. To make that growth rate go up a lot quicker.
You already have 200 customers here.
Love you guys. Cheers. Thanks for that. I wish you had 200 bottles. I'm telling you, I get